Hey guys, Pete back again today. It's time to do another ranking video, and today we're going to rank the Sports Network. The only reason I haven't done this is because it's a little bit different with all the two-player games, but I still think it's probably one of the most important networks for the Intellivision back in the day because it's the foundation that Mattel used to market their system against Atari. Atari was a juggernaut back at the time, and Mattel stepped in late into the game, or a couple years later into the game. But they could use their commercials to compare the realism of their sports titles to the different games for the Atari.
I'll try almost anything. So when Mattel Electronics asked me to compare their Intellivision games with Atari, I gave it a try. I compared Atari baseball with Intellivision and found Intellivision played much more like real baseball. Then I compared Atari football with Intellivision. Again, Intellivision played more like the real game. In my opinion, if you try them both, there's only one conclusion you can come to. Intellivision from Mattel Electronics.
These were the games that were marketed for another reason. That's because parents understood these games. They weren't coming for a parent who understood a video game. That was the very first generation of video games, so the parents really didn't understand what video games meant, but they could understand baseball, and they could understand basketball and hockey and football, and when they looked at these games, especially compared to other video game systems out there like Atari, they could actually see those games, so it really gave them an upper hand. But anyway, without any further ado, let's go on and rank the 11 games that I have right here from the Mattel Intellivision Sports Network. All right, so let's start first with auto racing. Very impressive game, a different type of concept back at the time. This was a complete overhead view. Nothing like this at all in the Atari system. So when they brought this one out, people really enjoyed this game, but it's very, very challenging. Now, I did this on the 125 back a few episodes ago. It's episode number 16, so the link will be in the description below. Check that out for the full story on auto racing. But let me just say this. It was able to be played both one player and two players. One player, simply do 5 circuits as quickly as possible. You got 5 different tracks, good variety, all built in the same world. I talk about all that in the 125 video. You should check it out. But the two player was a little bit different because, of course, you couldn't get more than the 2 players on the screen, right? And if you get too far ahead, it had to stop and start over again. And frankly, it went by points. It was a different type of racing game, not necessarily who crossed the finish line, but who could get the most points. You know, it was a lot of fun to play, but it wasn't pure racing like a lot of games are. And for that reason, you know, I'm going to rank auto racing, probably not as high as a lot of people I know would, but I'm going to rank auto racing as a C. Next up, we have boxing. This is a 2-player only game from back in the day. You had to have a boxing game, and this really made it much more advanced than other games that have been out for boxing-wise for other systems. For example, for the Activision one for Atari, it didn't even really look like boxers. I don't know what it looked like, snakes with big balls on the end or something like that. I could see the boxers in it, but a lot of people couldn't. But this had a pretty good depiction of boxers. Once again, I did this in the 125, episode 5. Check it out for a full description all about this game. But man, yeah, this was a lot of fun. Even though it was 2 players only, used to play it 1 player quite a bit just to try to get knockouts and such. So there was a lot of fun to be had there, and I really, really appreciate Dave Harley's new Rock'em Sock'em Super Pro Boxing, which takes this game and makes it possible to be played 1 player, where the opponent actually fights back. So really great addition to that game. But as for the original boxing right here, good graphics, good sounds, a lot of fun to play. You can talk somebody to play it with you. I'm going to give it a C rating. Next up, we have the all-time classic baseball, or Major League Baseball, which is another big thing that Mattel did, right? They had the Major League Baseball sponsorship. They were the first video game company to grab that sponsorship and put it on their game. So, yeah, what identifies Major League Baseball other than the name being right here on the cover? Nothing. There's no players. There's no teams. It's just 2-player game, red versus blue. But still, it was really interesting at the time for them to put that on there. Now, the cost of doing this nowadays would be astronomical, and I don't think they paid very much money at all to Major League Baseball back in the day to get that put on there. But the George Plimpton commercials comparing baseball to home run on the Atari are classic. There's nobody who wouldn't look at the baseball games side by side and say, that looks like baseball. I don't know what that looks like. But this truly, truly looked like baseball. Has there been better baseball games since? Absolutely. baseball has improved, but this is the first one that allowed you to control all 9 men, to control your pitches, to control your batters and runners, and it was absolutely phenomenal at the time. They even took this, of course, made World Championship Baseball, which let you play at 1 player, so this was a 2-player only game as well. But at the end of the day, I am going to rank Major League Baseball. It was a huge hit at the time, a huge title for the system. I'm going to rank it as an S. Next up, we got NASL Soccer, back to the North American Soccer League, the professional sponsorship, right? And this was a different, interesting game, different type of game. Soccer is not huge in North America. The North American Soccer League tried to bring it back, but it didn't last very far into the 80s, really. But what it did, it took the sports game, 2-player only game again, and tried to take it off the screen, made it bigger than the screen. Not the only Mattel game to do that, but one of the very first ever video games to do that. And they did it in a very interesting fashion by having the player, when you control the player, because you only have so many, right? But you could run off one side of the screen and you reappear at the back by your net as a defender. Kind of a neat concept, really. I did not have this back when I was a kid. Frankly, I've played it very little since, but I have played it a bit. It reminds me a lot of other games like hockey, like football. Football's got the scrolling, hockey's all on one screen, basketball's all on one screen, but this encompasses the whole thing. So it's pretty ambitious in that way. And if you learn how to play it, you really can control your players well. But at the end of the day, I am going to rank NASL Soccer as a C. Next up, we have NBA basketball. Another one that I didn't have when I was a kid, but I know so many people had this because, of course, up around here, I play a lot of hockey, right? So I'm more interested in hockey. Don't like basketball that much. Some basketball games are fun. This game is pretty fun. One screen, lots of different elements. I think it's 3-on-3 basketball, right? And overall, it's just got really good control, good shooting. They improved it with Slam Dunk Super Pro Basketball later on in the INTV network, which is, obviously a better game because it's more complicated, complex, 1 player. This is a 2-player only game. That takes a little bit away from it. But the graphics are really good. It's very easily playable. And I'm going to rank NBA basketball as a B. So here's a game that we had back when I was a kid, and it's one of the most complex video games that ever existed at the time. Of course, it came with a manual. It came with 2 playbooks, 1 for each player. You could put in the complicated plays with the 4 digits or the 2 digits or whatever it hit enter. And then you had the screen, which scrolled across to get the entire 100 yards. Really a neat concept at the time that the whole thing wasn't on one screen, just like soccer, except for in this one, obviously you couldn't run off the backside and come back on by your own end. That would not be very fair, would it? Just not the nature of football. But we really did enjoy playing this game. Used to play it a lot against my brother-in-law. He liked football, but I would, of course, study the manuals and stuff and have all the plays thought out and et cetera, et cetera. And we really didn't end up playing it that much. I probably would have had more opportunity to play it if I had some of my own age there to play with all the time. But at the end of the day, man, it really is a lot of fun. Another one, like all these. INTV Core put out a 1-player game, Super Pro Football, later on. And but this original one, absolutely groundbreaking at the time. And I am going to rank NFL football, love that license, as an A. All right, next up, NHL Hockey. I already talked about basketball and hockey. Well, this is with the license to NHL, right? I am a hockey guy. We got this game back in the day. I used to play it all the time. I play 1 player because, frankly, it's pretty challenging to score on the goalie at all. So I used to play this 1 player all the time, even though it's a 2-player only game. Really strange how, and with all these games, the clock, the time isn't sort of, doesn't reflect the difference in the timing that you want to play a video game, because it really does take 3 20-minute periods in this game, just like football is 4 real 15-minute quarters. Basketball is the same thing. It's a little bit excessive that way. So it's hard to find somebody to play for that amount of time. But very often we'll play a period of this. And of course, I used to love that sound when you trip the guy. I love being able to do that. And I also Penalties, the fact that you could have penalties was pretty cool. The graphics were okay. The goalies, oh man, it was hard to friggin' score. But we still played it. We still liked it. It's not the fastest paced thing in the world. I'd rather play NHL 94 on my Genesis, which hasn't been beaten to this day as far as playability and fun goes. But still, for a game from 1979, 1980, this really does hold up quite well. And I am going to rank NHL Hockey as a B. All right, PBA Bowling. Very interesting game. This is a game, we're bowlers in our family. Now, mind you, it's candlepin bowling up here. It's not 10-pin bowling. It's candlepin in this part of the country, which is a totally different game than PBA bowling, which is very systemic. Throw the same thing every time to make the same shots, whereas candlepin is very randomized. And it also, you play the deadwood as well. But I digress. PBA bowling in and of itself, I'm going to sort of get to that. It sort of reminds me a little bit of candlepin bowling, and I'll tell you why. Let's compare this just to the Atari bowling. And don't get me wrong, I love Atari bowling. It's a very fun game. But if you get down your patterns, there's just a couple different factors that, when you start your hook or where you move your man a little bit. But it's relatively repetitive. You could do the same thing over and over, and really there's not much chance you're going to miss once you get good at it. There are so many factors in this game. This game has as many different variables as a game from 20 years later. It's absolutely, in my opinion, amazing what they put into this game, whether it's the position of the bowler up and down when you go to throw, that holding in the button for that aim dot to go across the screen. It's hard to get the exact same spot twice, right? Then you had factors such as the amount of hook, and there's like 3/4 of the disc is different amounts of hook. Then you have a quarter of the disc is sort of reverse hook the other way, sort of like a slice, I guess we could call it. You have different slicknesses. You have different ball weights. It's absolutely incredible how many different variables and factors are in this bowling game from 1979. And you know what?
What?
It makes it fun. It makes it so you just can't master it, so you get bored of it and never want to do it again, because you can have good strings, you can have bad strings, just like real bowling. And that's exactly what you're looking for. So I don't think there's a bowling game that's ever done it any better since, I'll be quite honest. And I am ranking PBA Bowling a no doubt S. Next up, we have PGA Golf, a game that I did not have when I was a kid, but I did play it at a friend's house a few times when I was a kid, because it was a fairly popular game. People love to golf, so they get the golf game, right? I also played it recently, and I've done it in the 125. It's episode number 10. Look at the link in the description below. What can I say about it? It's just a lot of fun. It is not the most advanced golf game in the world. It's not the most precise golf game in the world, but it's still fun to play. You can play it fairly quickly. I enjoy it very much. Yes, the games later on for the Genesis and such, and then more recent modern ones like the Tiger Woods ones are incredibly more realistic, and there's so many more factors and variables that are involved than in this game. But at the end of the day, this is still fun. And so, you know what?
What?
I'm just going to say it right up front. I am ranking PGA Golf as a B. Next up, we have U.S. Ski Team Skiing. Another license, right? U.S. Ski Team, PGA, PBA, all those different NFL, MLB. It's amazing. It's great that they did this. I love that fact that they did this back in Mattel. But anyway, has slalom. It has downhill. Very similar to, I found, to Activision skiing, which is what I played most of all when I was a kid, because I had that one, but I did not have this one as a kid. I played this one quite a bit since. I played Mountain Madness as well from INTV Core later on. And I'll be quite honest, this is a pretty good game. I enjoy this game. Is it something that you're going to play over and over and over again repetitively? I don't know that you really are. It's still fun, though, to put in once in a while. And if you have somebody to play against, you can play this one player, just try to do your best time. But it'd be more fun just to have a little competition or a tournament or something against somebody. So, it's not a bad game. I am going to rank U.S. Ski Team Skiing. I'm going to rank it as a C. Last but not least, we have tennis. And there's no sponsorship there. There's no group. I'm sort of surprised that maybe this one was big. It was too expensive. But tennis, 2-player only game. I'm not a big tennis fan, although I love some tennis games like virtual tennis. There's lots of great tennis games on the Xbox. But of course, way back in this day, you had Atari or Activision Tennis. You didn't even swing, you just sort of moved it. It was glorified, graphically improved Pong. This one, at least, you had to hit the button to hit the ball back. But you know, I didn't find it all that easy to play. It was certainly not pick up and play. So I'm going to have to rank tennis as a D. So that's it for my rankings of the Sports Network games. Some of the most important games from my childhood because I have such great memories playing against my different family members in these games and such. And I really like that today. This is what I've always wanted to do, is I wanted to be able to find a way to play some of these games online. Because, I mean, I'm not finding people around here too much, but I have so many friends online. I'd love to have a game of Major League Baseball against them. I'd love to be able to have, we could bowl, just not have the same scores. But there's just so many of these games that I'd love to have a capacity to play head to head with. Over the internet. That would be such an amazing thing. But anyway, in the meantime, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with Coco and I here today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, because it really does help my channel. And I will be back with another ranking video one of these days. You take care.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age.
I'm Rick Levine, programmer of the Intellivision games, microsurgeon, PBA Bowling, and trucking. And you're watching Papa Pete, the old guy gamer.
What the hell?